Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Back for another match week review, match week 10 of the Bundesliga on a very wet weekend. Well, it certainly has been here in Sheffield. But I'm joined this evening by Mark and Peter. Evening, both. How are we doing tonight?
Not bad at all, my end. Thanks.
Good stuff.
Also,
Good stuff.
Great to see you.
Excellent. Any firework displays that we visited this weekend, chaps?
Oh, not in the Bundesrepublik, no.
No. Well, I had a very wet weekend in Sheffield trying to watch the fireworks, but well, there was fireworks aplenty in the Bundesliga at least, so we've got that to enjoy and reflect on. Obviously, the big stories that we'll review in our featured 4 games, lots of talking points and well, stuff to get into very shortly. Before we do, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on tonight's show if you possibly can do. That would be very much appreciated. Comment along. There's been some big results out this weekend, so be interested to hear from Bayern fans, Dortmund fans, everyone alike, Leverkusen fans. How are you feeling? Still managing to keep that winning streak going? And everyone else in between, please do fire in your questions if you do have any, or just comments, and of course subscribe to the channel. That's our little bit of admin out of the way, so we can enjoy and crack on with the rest of the show. So we'll start off again like we did last week with Peter's Kiosk Club. So we shall hand over gladly to yourself, Peter, to present your findings from the weekend's headlines.
Yes, thank you, Rory. I appreciate that deeply. Once again, joining you from what Mark refers to as the land of the free. The Bundesrepublik is also. So we're doing our Kiosk Club via printout for the second consecutive week. But obviously the big news, of course, much to the chagrin of German football lovers and perhaps even casual fans of the Bundesliga, is that we have a case of Dortmund déjà vu. And schon wieder alles wie immer. Everything is just as it was before. This is a result that Dortmund have lost 9 and drawn 1 against Bayern München, their direct title rivals since 2018, the last time that they won there. And this was not necessarily the result that many were hoping for. The Sportbild, which I just held up, also made sure to let you know that Dortmund is halt nicht Saarbrücken, noting that it doesn't matter if Saarbrücken went ahead and took Bayern out in the Pokal. Dortmund are still doing Dortmund things. We will get to that match, and we'll also get to Leverkusen, who the Sportbild congratulates on being Meisterlich. They are very much fit for the title, and I'm sure that we'll have a lot more to say about that in a few moments. The kicker has more or less conceded the title race. The kicker is leading with Der große Unterschied, or the big difference between the German record champions, the 11-time defending champions, and Dortmund, which I believe are simply, well, there's a whole lot in the kicker that states that the difference in quality between these two teams, both in terms of on-pitch personnel and also administratively. I think it's fairly dour, considering we're only at match day 10 of the season. But when Germany's preeminent footballing publication is ready to concede defeat, we may have some issues on our hands. So there's our Kiosk Club, and I will hand it off to Mark and Rory to let us know which matches we'll be discussing first.
Very neatly done, Peter, and very well done not to dive too much into our headlines, which would have been very easy to do off the back of those headlines in the tabloids. So we'll crack on then, and obviously starting in 4th place, we will be reviewing what was a fantastic and first win for Mainz over RB Leipzig at the weekend. Obviously following the news that Bo Svensson departed the club, and it might not have been the most engrossing from a chances point of view, chaps, but I think we wanted to get this game in there and talk a little bit about their first win of the season, and reflect maybe a little bit on Leipzig's ability to sometimes lose these games out of nowhere, it seems. But yeah, I'll throw this over to you in a second, Mark. But naturally, there's a lot of relief from a Mainz point of view. Lots of pleased Bundesliga traditionalists with this sort of result. I also find it really frustrating a result as well, seeing that how Mainz had this ability within them anyway, and it takes a great head coach to remove himself from a situation to allow it to happen. And that, I think it all just goes back to this player power rubbish, which I'm completely fed up with being a Man United fan. But just seeing it, it come to that fore of, them digging in throughout the match, making it a fairly dull-ish first half, preventing RB from having too many clear-cut chances. And, just the rear guard action, it's come from them having the motivation again because they have to impress someone else. So I know I'm kind of starting on a bit of a slowish point, and it maybe is a little bit underwhelming for people who are tuning in wanting to celebrate Mainz. And there are lots of good points to this game and performances to be celebrated, but just wanted to say my piece on that because I find it quite frustrating in that element. But what are your thoughts, Mark, on their performance in the main, and whether you agree with me or not? You can shoot me down if you want.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to say is obviously the fans of Mainz turned out in the Bo Svensson t-shirts, Bo Svensson banners. They wanted to make it clear before the game basically that they were very, very happy that what the Dane did at the club. He leaves on no bad mark at all. The fans loved him. He loved the club. Obviously, he was a player as well. So I think that was a nice touch as well. I think, on the Mainz performance, obviously the first point is it was much, much improved. Nobody can deny that. It was by far their best performance of the season. They worked a lot harder. They defended harder. Whether it was a case of, Svensson just reached the end of his time. He had been there almost 3 years. And clubs like Mainz, they don't usually have dynasties of 10 years with a manager. I know they did have Klopp for, I think, 5 or 6 years. Tuchel, I think, did 2 or 3 as well, obviously in successful periods. But I think one thing you've got to remember is that clubs like Mainz, they don't usually keep managers for a dynasty. So it could have been a case that it was just it had gone stale and both sides decided to part ways, basically. My feeling about what happened at Mainz is that I don't get the feeling that the club really hated him. The fans definitely didn't hate him. Even the players, I don't think they hated him. It was a case of he just couldn't get a tune out of this roster anymore. It was as simple as that, really, And I think, for me, it could even have still been a bit premature, actually, the firing. I'm going to be honest, because I really do think he's a great coach, and I think ultimately this squad is his building, and I think there were obviously a few players, particularly Ajork. I've got to be honest, Ajork was extremely poor this season, and I do question whether his attitude was particularly good at times this year, especially after missing those 2 penalties on the first day of the season. But as for the performance, I just want to mention a few things about, first of all, the formation. Obviously, Ajork was dropped as well, which is something of a surprise because, he is their talisman, really. And Onisiwo came in. What an assist that was for the first goal, by the way, from Lee. That was a brilliant Mainz goal, actually, that ultimately won it for them. Brilliant ball from Onisiwo, kind of cult hero in the Bundesliga. Put in absolutely superb, wrapped his foot around it and put it right on the head of the mini magician Lee, who was running in, and he looked like he was going to start crying when that goal went in the back of the net, to be honest. I think, there was so much relief among Mainz fans that it was superb to see it. But for me, I think Leipzig obviously didn't turn up for the game, really, in truth. I think apart from Xavi Simons, he was the only one that can really hold his head high in this performance. He was good. He tested Zentner a few times. But in general, I think it was a great Mainz performance. There was a moment when I think they could have had a penalty as well, potentially, Leipzig. I think it was for a foul on, was it Simons, actually? And I think that could have been a foul just before the 1-0 goal, actually. But yeah, credit to Mainz, they deserved the win. You know, it is sad to see Svensson leave. I am disappointed, but congratulations to Sievert. He got as many wins already with Mainz than he did in, I think, half a year with Huddersfield Town. So credit to him for that. And, you know, I hope Mainz continue to improve. As you can see, I'll just put it on the table as well. The things are looking a bit better for Mainz as well. They're off the bottom of the table. The level on point with Union Berlin, incredibly. Two teams that you just can't believe are in the bottom three at this stage of the season. But, you know, things are looking up for Mainz. They go to Darmstadt next week, which is another game. They'll be looking to back that one up with a second win. And, you know, yeah, I do hope Mainz manage to improve and, you know, stay in the Bundesliga this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Over to yourself, Peter. Just maybe thoughts on the game, thoughts on RB. Bit of, you know, a real shock, and a lot of people, you know, would have been wary of the new coach bounce and things like that. But there was still a great degree of confidence that RB would do the business and get another win. It's obviously their first loss since the opening day defeat against Leverkusen. So it did come out of the blue, didn't it? We weren't expecting this, were we?
Yeah, and I really do concur wholeheartedly with what you said at the beginning of your presentation about this match. It is inherently frustrating that both Svensson had to be the sacrificial lamb. Svensson is very much a cult trainer within the Bundesrepublik. He did resign. It was actually it was Svensson's idea to resign because the team was not performing up to. He just thought he wasn't doing a good job anymore. And there was a tearful farewell message conducted in German, in which, as Mark mentioned, he was a player in Mainz. His children have been raised in Mainz. And I should point out, my new Bully News colleague, Moritz Bayer, is here. He's a Köln supporter. Svensson was every bit the cult trainer that Stefan Baumgart is. The last time I went to go see Mainz live was a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, Mark, they were hosting Augsburg in the fall of 2021. And just like everybody in the cathedral city is sporting the flat cap, you know, as a tribute to Baumgart, everybody in Mainz, or a lot of people in Mainz, are rocking what they call Svensson beards. You know, they have tuned their facial hair, you know, specifically to pay tribute to the coach who we thought was destined for great things. You know, when we were talking about Mainz earlier in the season, there were injury issues, so many injury issues, so many players playing out of position on that back line, and also at the wing back positions. The biggest one, of course, is Sylvain Widmer, who hasn't made a league appearance yet, the Swiss captain there. So there was that, and there was poor squad balance. You know, they really never had a replacement for the Spaniard there, the departed Spaniard. Somebody help me with his name. It's
Aaron Martin.
Thank you. I mean, that was a huge problem. So, as Rory aptly pointed out, Mainz always had the talent, and they had the discipline, and they had the will to get out of this. And you know, for Svensson to have to be sacrificed for this, it's just sad. It's incredibly sad. He had injuries at the striker position too. You know, in addition to the fact that we don't know if Johnny Burkhardt is ever going to play again. Nelson Piper got hurt. Ranschen Gruda got hurt. The two young German U21 internationals. So it's just a perfect storm of bad luck. And actually, I mean, if you want me to talk a little bit about Leipzig, I think that Xavi Simons actually played a really great game, and Zentner actually had to make a huge save on Simons. The midfield double six access of Zaberschlager and Kevin Campbell, I think they absolutely worked their socks off, and were understandably disappointed afterwards that the result went the way that it did. But as Mark mentioned, it was a deserved win in the way that Onisiwo set up that first goal. I mean, all on his own, you know, tearing down that right flank and then supplying just a gorgeous cross, absolutely sumptuous cross that was. So, I mean, it was a deserved win, and it's a win that makes German football purists very happy. And I mean, Svensson's going to coach another Bundesliga team. That's going to happen. It's probably going to happen before the season is out. His coaching career will continue in the Bundesrepublik, and a team would be very, very, very lucky to have him, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. Some nice comments there, Peter, as well. Yeah, absolutely. It was a shame to see him go, but we hope to have Bo back very soon. Just to keep Leipzig to an XG of 0.52 all game, 2 efforts on target was, really impressive. And, Leipzig might be saying with the 64% possession and making over 600 passes, how did they not create more clear-cut chances? Is maybe a mystery, but Mainz, of course, did front up and, play really, really well. Mainz have now scored 7 goals in their last 4 versus 4 goals in their first 6. So they're also starting to find their way to goal a little bit more regularly as well. So well done to them. We shall move on to our next game. Just a few comments in the chat as well. Pick up on Ballum, of course, watching this evening, alluding to the Pokal draw, which has seen Nuremberg and Kaiserslautern be drawn against each other in the big face-off, the Peter versus Mark face-off.
Wow. Okay. Well, we don't have a choice but to attend that one, do we?
That's a take 2, I think. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. Interesting draw in general. Stuttgart being drawn at home against Dortmund. That will be a tough one for my boys, but providing we don't play like we did on Sunday, we might have a good chance in that one. So we look forward to the next round of the Pokal, of course. Good evening to Moritz as well. Thank you for tuning in. We wish Köln well for the rest of this season. Do we think that they can get themselves out of the bottom 3 before the winter break? As you say, they've been improved, but they'll obviously need to get a couple more wins. You probably wouldn't have been pleased, Moritz, to see the Heidenheim result from the weekend, nor seeing first wins for Mainz and Bochum. So probably not a great weekend, despite it being a good draw against Augsburg overall. Just wanted to pick up on that and thank you for the comment and for tuning in this evening as well. But anyway, we digress and we shall move on to our third game of the weekend. And we're going to talk Der Klassiker, chaps. And again, before I start being the bringer of doom and being really negative all over again, this is a hard game to review just from a Bundesliga purist point of view. Because, as Peter said in his kiosk club, it's not the results that a lot of people wanted to see, nor the performance that a lot of people wanted to see in black and yellow. And it was a red day for Bayern and for Harry Kane. He continues to score at will. Mark, straight away, we're talking about deja vu in the headlines as well in Germany, and it's just the same for us. Whilst we've been doing this show from a Der Klassiker point of view, Dortmund they haven't got it in them right now to be matching Bayern in a face-to-face head-on contest. What did you make of Dortmund's performance? Because if it weren't for Gregor Kobel, as per usual, it could have been a lot worse as well.
Yeah, what can you say? To be honest, my overall kind of feeling for this one was disappointment, actually, in truth, because, I think myself and Peter had talked over it. I think Peter had tipped a draw. I tipped a Dortmund win. Whoops. But I think we all tipped it to be a high-scoring game, but not all the goals being for Bayern, obviously. I think all of us thought it'd be a close game. Normally Dortmund do get a little bit closer than this, in truth, but obviously not in this instance. And there's definitely an element to being man-beaten against Bayern Munich, to be honest, for Dortmund. Dortmund was so poor in this game defensively, really. I just have no words to say, in truth. I just think, the first goal straight from the corner, the corner goes all the way through, straight onto the huge head of Dayot Upamecano, who couldn't miss, basically. But I mean, it's a great corner in. Let's not forget that. But I mean, at the end of the day, conceding goals from corners in this kind of fixture after 3 minutes, it's not ideal. Let's be honest, it's not ideal at all. But the second goal, I mean, that was a moment of magic. That was a beautiful goal from Bayern Munich, who, by the way, we don't always give them the credit they deserve on this show, but they were brilliant in the game. Let's not forget that. I mean, Sané and Kane were just absolutely ridiculous. Sané, for me, that was his best performance in a Bayern shirt. I'd go that far. I think he was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, he's having an amazing season, by the way. I think he's on 8 goals and 6 assists now. Like, he's doing pretty much as well in terms of goal contributions as Kane, just a few behind him. And he was absolutely brilliant. That second goal. Kane is just a goal machine, truly. I mean, to be honest, I've not watched that much Premier League the last 2 or 3 years since COVID, as we've focused mostly on the Bundesliga. But, I mean, Kane is he's absolutely ridiculous nowadays, really. He really is. He's probably the best striker in the world for me. I would even have him ahead of Haaland, in truth. I just think he's absolutely unbelievable at the moment. Just the build-up play that he provides, and him and Sané have made a really, really nice partnership there in the Bayern attack. And another man I want to give credit to is Lima. I think he obviously kind of covered the Kimmich position. He was suspended for this game. He was fantastic as well, playing in his more familiar role in central midfield. But yeah, I mean, for Dortmund, you've got to say, I mean, I've criticised Hummels a few times on this show, actually, but this performance was just not good enough, in truth. I mean, for me, nowadays, he's past his best, and I think German fans, they only really like him because of what he's done in the past. That's the feeling I get a lot with Hummels. He's a World Cup winner. He's done so much. He double Bundesliga champion with Dortmund, won a few titles with Bayern as well. The guy's had a great career, but for me, he's just not at the level. Maybe Peter disagrees with me on this, but I think I mentioned it to you, Peter, when we watched Dortmund at Hoffenheim as well. I think I said I'm just not a massive fan of him. And I think about 2 or 3 minutes later, he gave a penalty away. And basically, I just wasn't impressed with his performance. The Hummels-Schlotterbeck partnership just didn't work in this game at all. And it just wasn't a good performance. I think Özcan, who, by the way, has been good in recent weeks, he didn't really fill that gap in there. I think they probably should have started Nemecha in this game, in truth. Congratulations, Bayern. They were brilliant, really. As I say, especially those 3 names that I mentioned. I feel as though they were absolutely outstanding. Neuer as well. Let's not forget that, guys. Neuer's back in that net. It's no coincidence that Bayern Munich have kept 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games. He only had to make 2 saves, but one of them was top draw from Royce at 2-1. And, this is what wins games and wins titles, ultimately. But for Dortmund, it was a horrible, horrible day in the office. Their fans were leaving with about 20 minutes to go as well. I've never seen that at Dortmund before. That was shocking a little bit, but it just wasn't good enough ultimately from Dortmund. I'm sorry, but I just didn't think the performance was good enough from the home side.
So building on that, then I'll throw this your way, Peter. 2 things. First and foremost, is it now panic stations for Dortmund? But based on the fact that if we look at it in real terms, this was Dortmund's first defeat in 18 top-flight matches. Their previous loss was against Bayern in April, a 4-2 loss in the Allianz. So is it time to panic? And then secondly, my second point is just falling out of my head. So if you go about the first one, I'll think of my second one and ask you it in a second.
Okay. Well, thank you for bailing me out earlier with Aaron Martin. I can't believe I forgot his name. So I appreciate the assistance there. With respect to whether Dortmund are gone and dead and buried, I still think that they have a quality team. What factors into that is, of course, that we have Leverkusen, who are probably the closer title aspirants this year. And I'm not giving up on Stuttgart just yet. You'll be pleased to know. As you mentioned, this was their first defeat of the season, and it was their first defeat in 18 games. I think, with Hummels, he did enter a form surge around about Matchday 29 of last season, and then continued that on through the early phases of this season. He was really quite good. That's why he was recalled to the German national team. But he is simply at that age where, he is slowing down significantly. And he can have nightmare matches like this. I mean, Schlotterbeck blew the marking on the initial corner with Upamecano, and Hummels was just simply too slow to stop that Bayern counter on the second goal, what you could argue was the decisive goal. In defense of Dortmund, I mean, look, the Bayern counter this year is insanely good. And this was, you didn't expect, Mark mentioned Leimer, how he's stood up in Kimmich's absence. I think, I reviewed the tape and I was looking at it. It looked kind of like a 4-1-4-1 with Goretzka basically, on like the second attacking axis. So you had Goretzka, Sane, Musiala, Coman, all pressing forward. And indeed, on that second goal, Sane initiates it with a really clever back heel. Goretzka charges forward. And eventually we get the ball in the back of the net. Goretzka narrowly missed on that bicycle kick, too, a little bit later. That would have been absolutely spectacular. I mean, it was a nightmare day in defense for Dortmund. That's indisputable. Kobel, who was the giver of the egg in the Easter basket last time they lost to Bayern in the spring, bailed them out a little bit there. But Manuel Neuer also made some good saves. I mean, there were some pinpricks. There were some offensive chances for Dortmund after the 2-0 with involving Brandt. And Neuer made a really good save on Royce on the turn from close range in the box. So I wouldn't be pressing the Dortmund panic button by any stretch of the imagination. It is a problem that you have, that you have this defensive core that is either making, it's totally unpredictable. You don't know which Mets Hummels is going to show up. And something else that Mark and I were talking about when we were attending the match in Hoffenheim was that Hummels also, he makes these fantastic recovery tackles, but he puts himself in that position in the first place by messing up. So I mean, he like bails himself out spectacular and is just amazing at covering his own tracks and his own mistakes so many times. But that doesn't excuse the fact that he makes these mistakes in the first place. Do you remember your second question now? Or
I do, yeah. It's probably not a greatest one ever, but obviously at 2-0 down so early on, are Dortmund thinking that they can realistically get back into this match? As Mark's already said, like they're a beaten team when it comes to Bayern at this particular moment in time with all that baggage. And obviously, I know you correctly said, Peter, there were a few chances, the Marlon one just before half time, and obviously the Royce one, but. Do we really think at 2-0 down after 10 minutes is being turned around?
Perisic did the best that he could tactically. I mean, he did that's why you had Özcan and in the midfield, and it was a really, really compact 4-2-3-1. So he did his homework. He was doing everything that he possibly could to slow down this Bayern counter, which with Sane in the form that he's in, it's ridiculous. I mean, Sane he'll often initiate the play and then finish it off himself. You have Musiala, who is just so amazingly unpredictable. You have Coman, who is, I think, one of the fastest players in the league. He might be number 3 or number 4 on the Rangliste there. I'll have to double check the speed clock stats for that. So, I mean, he deployed this really compact and really he wanted to slow down the midfield traffic in the form of Özcan and stuff like it, but it simply didn't work. When you go down 0-2 that early, I mean, this is not a Dortmund team that's particularly explosive. I mean, they kind of manufacture goals, which is perfectly fine, and that should lead them to a top 4 finish this season. They might even points-wise be in the title race for a good long while. But they're more of a slow kind of manufacture goals type of team, at least in this juncture. And so if they go down early, it's not exactly easy for them to play catch up.
Yep, absolutely. Some great points there. Obviously there was a strong reaction on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, as there would be after such a result that gets people's backs up. So I think there was quite a strong reaction, an emotive reaction in regards to where Dortmund are going, where they're going under Terzic, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's right to kind of put that into context, but also from this head-to-head contest, it's not a contest right now. Bayern are absolutely dominating proceedings in that sense, and will be going on strongly. And looking forward to their next match. Some very good points made by Moritz in the chat about Goretzka coming from the position that he was in during the summer. Even the poor lad was linked to playing for Man United, bless him. So he'll be extra pleased for the fact that he's managed to turn things around so well. And he is, he's come back into form really impressively. So yeah, a really big game of the weekend, and a better and a bigger performance matched by Bayern to get the win. So we'll move on then to our second and first most entertaining games of the weekend. And well, we're going to talk about the league leaders. So Bayer Leverkusen withholding the Hoffenheim comeback to win 3-2 thanks to Grimaldo in many parts getting a brace, Florian Wirtz getting yet another goal, and this, I think, Mark, again, I'll come to you first. Maybe one of those games, in years gone by where Leverkusen would have quite easily folded, do we want to say, and not gone back into that mode of being able to just piece together that quality to get that third goal and then hold out again. We also have to put into context the Hoffenheim comeback comes off some, I know I've talked about him a lot on this show, but Radetzky's goalkeeping. He, Mark, you were talking about him last week and how he's improved and made some big saves for them recently. But he's, his distribution is the reason why Hoffenheim get back into the game. A hell of a executed, lob by Stack to make, to start the comeback and make it 2-1. And then Weghorst is, in the right place at the right time to make the most of a parried effort and makes it 2-2. But anyway, Mark, thoughts on this one? High quality from Leverkusen still, but are you impressed again this time by their character as well to be able to again withhold a mini comeback, by a decent Hoffenheim side, and show that character again to go out there and win another 3 points?
Yeah, I love this game of football. Actually, I thought it was a really, really entertaining game. This one, there was a lot of dynamics in there, as you say. I mean, the first half was a clinic, I thought, from Leverkusen. I thought they were absolutely brilliant in the first half. I mean, that first goal, what can you say about, Wirtz and Boniface? Boniface hasn't been getting the goals recently, but he is just... to be honest, after Kane, he probably is the second best striker in the league, to be honest. Even the guy's just absolutely unbelievable. Like, he never gives up. And even if he's denied, he still comes back and gets an assist like he did on the third goal. This was a great workmanlike performance. And he is an unbelievable footballer, Boniface, for me. We all know about what Florian Wirtz can do. The last two performances, he's been world class, as he is really. He's going to be one of the top footballers in Europe in the next 3 to 4 years, probably, maybe not even that long. But Boniface, he's not been getting on the score sheet the last few weeks, but this was a superb performance from him, genuinely, And I just thought the build-up play for the first goal was absolutely brilliant, Grimaldo, is there a better finisher from left back in the world right now? Is there a better left back in the world right now than him? I don't know, to be honest, because, what a player. I just can't stop kind of purring about this Leverkusen team, especially from an attacking perspective, And, they deserved the 2-0 lead. They were absolutely dominant. Frimpong missed chances. He just gets forward so well, even now. Just superb first half. But then, as you say, the start of that second half, I don't know what went wrong, really. I think Hoffenheim are a team that get out of the blocks very quick in the second half. We've seen that a few times this season. Bayer is another player who's looking really, really good, by the way. I think, I still back him to be Germany's number 9 for the World Cup. I really do. I think he's the best option right now. And I think, he is a player that if he gets 15, 18 goals this season, which I think he will do from what I've seen so far, I think he's a shoo-in for Germany's number 9. He was very unlucky not to score before the Hradecky mistake, actually. He had a few good efforts, which were well saved, actually, by Hradecky. But as you say, the mistake for the goal, it's not good enough, ultimately, really. I think it's his first big error of the season, and we've got to cut him a bit of slack, really, I think, because he's not made many. This is the 10th game. This is his first big mistake, really any mistake, I would say. But it was a poor one. It was a gimme. It was a good finish from Stach, you've got to be honest. But, I mean, you can't be giving him that kind of back pass, basically, to give him a free rein and basically chip the keeper. I think even on the second goal, that was a funny one, actually, because, Bayer has so much room. I don't know, should Hradecky have done better? I really don't know on that one. I'd be interested to know what you guys think, because it was a great strike, but he saw it very clearly. And, he did get a hand to it. He should have been able to push it wide, possibly. I don't know. I'm a little bit unsure on that one. But obviously, it ended up being an easy tap-in for Weghorst for his second goal in 2 games, a former Man United legend as well, Wout Weghorst. But, yeah... But yeah, basically, then you're thinking, "Oh my God, they're going to lose this." It was very, very near to making it 2-1 as well with that header. And he was very unlucky not to score that. If that goes 3-2, you're thinking, "Oh no, it's disaster stations for Leverkusen." But I mean, the goal that wins it, I just think is all about Boniface. Really, I just think it was a brilliant build-up play from Boniface, and then he kind of passes it off to, world-class curling strike again from Grimaldo. I mean, what a player he is, really. And then after that, they see the game out quite comfortably. They probably should have had a 4th or even a 5th on the counter in the last 10 minutes. And as you say, I think this is what's changed. This is not only what's changed under Leverkusen, but this is a new kind of title challenger for Bayern Munich. And I think the main reason is that man, Xabi Alonso. I just think he is so determined he's going to win this Bundesliga this year. You could see it in his face. Like, this guy's a winner. He's not like, with all due respect to Terzic, he doesn't strike you as a winner as such. But Xabi Alonso is a winner, 200%. And I think he would damn well make sure they won that game. Otherwise, it'd have been, in the cold shower for 2 hours after the game, I think, because he wouldn't have been happy. But I just think, it showed character, it showed mettle. I just like everything this Leverkusen team are doing. I just hope they can keep winning because, to be honest, Bayern Munich are looking pretty ominous at the moment. And they're going to have to keep winning. But I do believe they're capable of riding out this great spell of form from FC Bayern and, staying top of the league.
Yeah, there's obviously a long way to go, and it's a hot pace, as you can see on screen. 9 wins, 1 draw. They've been absolutely fabulous to watch so far this season. Long may it continue. That's yet another loss at home for Hoffenheim. I think that's the joint worst home record in the Bundesliga. So not great at home for the Hoffenheimers. Peter, just very quickly, anything else to add on the game? Still, obviously, singing the praises of Leverkusen or berating Hoffenheim's home form?
Well, I'm going to berate Pellegrino Matarazzo for benching John Anthony Brooks. That's just sacrilege. But actually, believe it or not, I have a tactical criticism of Xabi in this one. I mean, I like every other German. You may recall at the beginning of the season, I was holding up my Elf Freunde that said, Xabi Alonso is the best trainer in the league. And I still believe that. There was a little bit of a impractical tactical tweak at the half, and he took off Kosunu and brought on Stanisic and moved Frimpong up a little higher and in, Hoffman out wide. And Hradecky, let me see if I can pronounce it right. It's Hradecky. Yes. I try to, because he's a good figure in both German football and Danish football, as a matter of fact, too. Rune really likes him after all his years up there in Denmark. He admitted the passing error. He thanked Alejandro Grimaldo for bailing him out. He said he put out the fire that I lit. In terms of what you were talking about as to whether Hradecky should have held that second effort that Weghorst was able to turn in, probably so. But let's, that actually resulted from a passing error from Granit Xhaka. So I can't believe that I'm talking about these are very, very light criticisms of Xabi Alonso and Granit Xhaka, but I didn't anticipate that there would be any criticisms of them at all over the course of this entire season. I mean, this is, like writing down a list of God's greatest mistakes or something like this. I mean, it's just, how can you do this? They are, I mean, look, these are the favorites to win the title. Wirtz initiated and finished that opening goal himself. Another fantastic game from Boniface. Moritz was saying that Grimaldo reminds him a little bit of Angelino. Actually, I don't know who he reminds me of. I mean, there were so many great bombing left flank players in the Bundesliga over the last 3 years. You think of Angelino, you think of Borna Sosa for Stuttgart when Sasha Kalajic was around. You think of Filip Kostic for Eintracht Frankfurt and things like this. Grimaldo, he isn't really like any of those players in open play. I do believe how many of his goals have come from dead balls? I think maybe more than half of them have come from dead balls. So he's a great player, not only in open play, but you can tell that Xabi has taken his fellow Spaniard under his wing on the training pitch and is working him really, really hard on set piece designs because he's been amazing in that respect. I mean, he's a real complete package, I would say, much more so than some of the other players that I spoke about. And it was a great football match. Once again, Hoffenheim cannot win at home. It's not possible.
No. Lovely stuff. We'll move on then to our final game of our featured four, and it's going to feature, Borussia Mönchengladbach once more. They are quite the team to watch this season, particularly from a we don't know what we're getting sandwich point of view, because they love a high-scoring draw. And they were involved in yet another thrilling match in the Bundesliga. Going out to a 3-1 lead, thanks to goals from Haller. Not from Haller. Jordan Player, and penalty converted eventually by Julian Weigl. From 3-1 down, Freiburg managed to bring it out. Some really nice play, actually, and get 2 goals back from a late penalty by that man, Grifo, who is involved in everything, of course, holding his nerve. Where to start with this one, chaps? I mean, there's one point that I want to come to straight away, which is one that, again, I'm having a right old moan tonight, aren't I? And it's in regards to the Weigl penalty. And we've seen yet another retake on these goalkeeper encroachments. We obviously talk about, VAR and the use of it to make sure that offside decisions are right by the, finest of margins, toenails being offside and all this sort of thing. But it feels like it's now creeping into everything that we do in the footballing world, where the penalty is obviously massively in favour of the striker being able to put it in the back of the net. So the goalkeeper is, the person who is not expected to make a save. And now we're making it almost just even more difficult for a save to be made, just because they almost lean forward ever so slightly at the pinch point to make a save. Because we've seen a few of them now in the last few weeks. Am I going mad? Am I just being a cynic? Mark, what do you think about this goalkeeper coming off the line business?
Oh, I absolutely hate that rule, actually, really, genuinely. For me, unless he's 2 meters off the line, it should be classified as a save for me. Really, that's what I honestly think. I just hate it, basically, especially when it's your team. You're celebrating your team saving a penalty, and then next thing they go back to the damn VAR and checking. No, I just don't like the rule at all. But this particular incident, I think, is the most brutal I've ever seen of a team getting one called back. I think he must have been 10 centimeters off his line, maybe. I think it was absolutely savage. I think for the young man as well, the potential future German number 9 who's been improving recently as well. And I thought it was a great save. And he was hard done to, big time. I think really that was brutal, to be honest. I think the rule itself is no good. Maybe, as you say, if he's a whole meter off the line, yeah, it's okay to call it back, but not for that. That's just ridiculous, completely, in my view, anyway.
It's certainly making things harder to, as you say, celebrate as a fan. In these, euphoric moments, you find yourself holding back as a fan these days for goals or any big moments, because you feel like, what's around the corner? What happened, 30 seconds ago that could be brought back for a VAR interference. Peter, your thoughts on this, ruling of VAR now starting to etch their way too much into the game?
Well, unfortunately, there's no real turning back. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think it was around a year ago that I was writing an article from the DFB, the German FA Rules Committee, in which they cited 17 examples of the keeper off his line rule not being kept. So the DFB insisted that we're going to, start cracking down on this. And unfortunately, if it is a matter of centimeters, it is a matter of centimeters. Toenails being offside, to use your own words, it's all very frustrating. What was it? It was a couple of weeks ago we were talking Dortmund, Union Berlin, and we were talking about how VAR reviews took up from the 19th to the 31st minute. And I was joking, what is this, an American football match? I mean, what my stuff, I'm here in the States as I am sometimes. I travel a lot, and I can't even watch American football anymore. I mean, it's all just nothing but instant replay reviews followed by timeout, more time for some more commercials. Luckily, we don't have the commercial problem in football, but I think what needs to happen, and the German FA is probably going to get on this too, is that they really need to speed up the process and have further clarification. To make sure that we're not having these 2-3 long minute long breaks. And maybe why don't we have a little automated system too? So that way, I mean, if there was something, we have goal line technology, we have automated offside technology. If he's off his line by 10 centimeters, just have a watch buzz, and then we don't have to celebrate the save. We can just have a retake. We can just whistle it down before the ball is even, or as soon as the ball is kicked. There's a lot more to talk about in this match. Obviously, I mean, it was a pretty crazy match. I could talk your ear off about it all long, but I don't want to take up too much of my allotted time. I mean, perhaps we'll see what Mark. What would you like to bring up in particular about this 6-goal affair?
Well, obviously, the penalty was one of the big moments, but I think there was obviously a lot of interesting moments. I think the start was really, really good as well from Freiburg. That opening goal was a really nice goal. I think Hurler, this was his best performance for quite a while, actually, and I think Freiburg have been missing that striker this year a little bit, and it's something that they've always had. Grigorovic last season was pretty good. Hurler in parts when he came back from his injury, but this year, I think they've missed that kind of number 9, really. Obviously, Grifo has been superb, like he pretty much always is, but I do hope that Hurler's performance was one of the things that stood out for me for Freiburg, really, in this match. I think, he also got the assist for Weishaupt's second goal as well, which was, by the way, a really nice strike, the youngster. Yeah, I definitely think that probably, Freiburg played the better football in the game, I would say. They were probably the better side, despite, obviously, Gladbach having that crazy period where they got 3 goals in 12 minutes, was it, at one point? The Player goal as well, it was a really nice strike, but pretty poor defending, which is kind of a new feature to Freiburg's season, unfortunately, because, they're another team that have always been very strong defensively. This year, I don't think it's quite been the case at all times. Maybe that is a little bit Atabulo. He's not the best at commanding his defense yet. But I always say that for a goalkeeper, it takes him 2 years at the top level to learn the trade. And I do believe that Christian Streich will give the young man that time. And he's a good shot stopper, but I think his problem is he's not that great at commanding his defense. And I think that shows a little bit with the number of goals that Freiburg have been conceding compared to most years, I think Linehardt didn't have his best game. Ginter also hasn't been having his best season in general, to be honest. I think he was dropped from the German national team as well, after being a pretty much shoe-in for most of last season. So, yeah, I would say from a Freiburg perspective, that was what stood out. I think going forward, they look really good in this game. One of the best attacking performances we've seen from them this year. But defensively, things do need to get a bit better. It's not a crisis for Freiburg because, they're still in mid-table. This is fine for Freiburg. We don't expect them to be in the top 5, 6 every year. But if they want to go back up to that top 5, 6, they're going to have to start shaping up a little bit defensively, particularly off set plays, I would say.
Yeah, as you can see on screen, or if you're listening to the podcast, 19 goals conceded already for Freiburg is quite out of character. And as you said, the Lienhardt challenge for the penalty was all over the shop.
He blew his marking on the one before that too. Lienhardt, he had a He did.
That was really good movement actually from Jordan.
I wanted to mention Jordan, our American.
Yeah.
What the hell?
He's
playing really well lately.
Yeah,
he really has, and that is not a player that we've been particularly kind to, on this podcast. So we should definitely give him credit. Alassane Playa, also not a player we've been particularly kind to on this podcast, and he's been doing well. So,
ever since Mark's berating of Player, he's been superb.
It's like the first season. Remember the first season we covered Rory when he was like a machine? I think he got 15, 16 goals that year.
Yeah, he was brilliant. And we so enjoyed, Jordan's early spell, with Union when he came in and was so effective. He was playing fantastic. So it'd be great if he can pick up that form again. It was a nicely worked set piece goal for Gladbach's first one, as obviously they took it short. I think it was Weigl who put in the cross and it was headed back in. Some nice highlights, and as we said, loads of good things to pick out from this game. Another high scoring draw for Gladbach. They can't quite go the line in some of these games. They'll be disappointed from 3-1 up not to have seen it out. But Freiburg are a particularly strong team at home as well. We'll just fly through the best of the rest action from this weekend. So obviously highlights to pick out. Obviously a first win of the season for Bochum in the Friday night fixture overcoming Darmstadt. A Nasano brace, really important goals by him. Overcoming Fabian Nürnberger's goal for Darmstadt, and they also had Fabian Holland sent off for the Lilies, so really important win for Bochum. Another player who scored a brace at the weekend is Omar Marmoush, who is now, I think he's topped his best ever Bundesliga haul in a season, and we're obviously only 10 games in, so great to see the former VfB man really flying for the Eagles, who Frankfurt are now really starting to look a threat going forwards. Union keep on tumbling down. Obviously, we can't see them on screen currently, but they're in real big trouble. Another goal, third in a row for Tietz, as Augsburg drew 1-1, as we mentioned, against Köln earlier on. Probably a better result for Augsburg in the end, based on the weekend's results. And then a pretty entertaining Sunday. Again, the early Sunday game really, produced some good goals. We saw Marvin Dush score a wonderful free kick. And obviously Werder came back into that match to lead 2-1. But Rafa Borre managing to get another goal for himself as well. So many great strikers this season in the Bundesliga to enjoy. There really is. And then the late game, a fantastic win for Heidenheim, to beat VfB Stuttgart in a game that they thoroughly well deserved, in a very odd performance by the away side, a bit lackluster. Obviously, the missed penalty by Silas before Kleindienst sealed it with another lobbed goal. We're seeing lots of lobbed goals as well this season to enjoy. Summarising, what was a poor mistake by Anton, who was probably actually Stuttgart's best player, ironically, in all of that. So that's obviously where we stand with the rest of the matches. And we keep on going and look forward to enjoying more Bundesliga footy over the coming weeks. So at that point, I think it is apparent that we can stop for this evening. So I'll hand over to yourself, Mark, and we can bring tonight's show to a close.
Yep. So if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, then check out at Over the Bar being at Over the Bar Extra, and don't forget to follow Rory at Village Footy 20 as well. And yeah, don't forget to keep liking, commenting, and subscribing, because we are slowly getting towards 1,100 now. And yeah, obviously not the most famous landmark compared to 1,000, but still we are on the road to 1,100. And yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. But yeah, keep letting your friends know, and it can help us grow just that little bit more. But yeah, thanks again for joining us. We'll be back again for the prediction show on Thursday. Thank you very much, guys, and see you there. Ciao, ciao.